I was talking with a friend of mine the other day, and she asked where I'd been for the last 2 weeks. I explained to her that I'd been at my property in the Adirondacks, and when she asked what I do there, I said I live in a tent on the side of a mountain and I work on my land. There was kind of a stunned silence, as if she didn't believe that it was possible. When I asked her about it, she seemed to think that it was something that there was no way she could do. It's not really rough living. I have fresh running water from my well. I have a hot shower. I have a full kitchen, or as much of a full kitchen as you can have in the middle of the woods. And I have, I think, one of the nicest views in the Adirondacks, especially at this time of year, fall. I also have the satisfaction of seeing, with each project and each day, the property that I purchased last year get closer and closer to that home in the woods that I want to live in. The deck addition that Matt and I put on in June was a huge improvement. You can see here from the well video before we added the deck how crowded the original deck is. It's literally just slightly larger than the tent itself. Having the additional space was important, but equally important was the ability to put on the awning. This expands the outdoor seating area for the tent and makes it a lot more comfortable. We would find when we went to put up the awning, however, that there were some issues, specifically with the tent poles which hold up the front corners of the awning. Okay, so the awning is up. It's a mess. We're in the middle of a project, but this was one of the things I was concerned about, is this deck is 6 feet deep. This is a 10-foot awning, and so this awning really needs to be up here. So I have thankfully a lot of maple trees, and so New York State Electric and Gas cleared the lines and cut down a bunch of maples, and I found this, Matt found actually, this 12-foot maple stave, which I then used my draw knife over there to debark it for the most part. Left a little bit of the Cambrian layer on there, but now I'm going to use this torch and we're going to do Shosugiban, which will burn off the remainder of the little chips and stuff, and it'll fire harden the wood, and it'll also give it a nice blackened appearance. So I pointed up the end down there, I don't know if you can see that, to allow it to stick into the ground just a little bit. And then I will drill a screw directly into the center of this to give me something to put the grommet through, and then this will be my new center stake, which will bring this out straight so there's more tension in it and it sheds water, and we have a good 6 feet of clearance underneath there for walking in and out and setting some chairs on the deck here. So when it rains, like it did last night, torrentially, we have the ability to get out of the rain. Shosugiban, or yakasugi, is a Japanese technique of preserving wood. If you watched YouTube, which obviously you do because you've seen this video, you've seen it a million times.
That's where you really need it.
Stripping the bark from the tree will help to keep the bugs from getting into it. Which is one of the ways that a hard wood like maple here can get damaged is by bug deterioration. Shosugi Bond adds to that with providing some weatherproofing and waterproofing. It prevents mold and wood rot, which theoretically increases the durability and longevity. It protects against insects, which stripping everything off, including the Cambrian layer, is going to do that. And it has some fire retarding properties, which I'm really not worried about. Primarily, I'm burning this to make it look a little bit nicer. At the bottom here, you'll see I am focusing a little bit more and getting a lot more coverage because that's going to be ground contact, and so I'm a little more concerned about rot from wet contact with the ground. While I was torching this, you could see Matt in the background gathering a few other maple stakes to use for the side posts. I'll eventually come back and burn those as well, so everything matches. But this was the one nice day of weather that we had, and we wanted to go visit our favorite brew pub.
It's hot as fuck. Where's this drink?
That's how we do it. After driving a screw in the end, the stake was ready. We loosened the tension on the guy wires in order for us to be able to raise the stake and get the other stake out. We'll tighten these back up as you see once we get the pole in place. And just like that, the tent awning was up and usable. You can see the immediate difference here when we put this center pole in. It raises that roof line to well over 6 feet, making it easy to walk underneath. This white duck tent has been great. It was not cheap. I'll put a link to the White Duck site, but this is their 13-foot regatta bell tent. I think I paid with the tent and the awning around $900. I got a pretty steep discount because they were running some kind of a summer sale when I bought it. But I cannot complain. It has been through a deluge rains, and not once have I had a problem with leakage. It's warm, comfortable, and as you'll soon see, very spacious inside. Once the cabin is built and I'm living here full time, this tent will have a second life as a camping site.
Victory!
The Adirondack Park is always busy, and people are always looking for some place to stay. So a bougie little 13-foot tent on the side of a hill with solar power is someplace that people would like to stay. A few more adjustments to tension up the other guy wires, and the awning was done. This awning is 10 feet by 10 feet. The tent is 13 feet by 13 feet. So the awning nearly doubles the amount of living space. So before, where there was a saggy awning, now we have a nice tight awning. There's just some tensioning I can do. I think I need to pull these back corners more that way, but this will work for right now, and it will shed water. That's all we need. Now we've got a good, 6 foot deep by 10 feet at least, because that corner right there is 10 feet from here. So 6 by 10 plus, yeah. So lots of nice dry sitting space to hang out just outside the tent. Okay guys, so just in case you're wondering, I know I've showed the outside of my tent in numerous videos, This is a working camp. You gotta excuse the pile of boards. That is the leftover cherry from building the Puma Hall. And my chainsaw, which I've used profusely on the hill, and there should be videos about that. But this is the deck that we built in June. So this is the approach to the tent. Got a nice little Adirondack chair there that I picked up at the local hardware store for cheap. Got my hiking poles, which got some abuse yesterday on the hill, and my awesome new hat. I'll insert a picture here showing me wearing it. Man walks down a street in a hat like that, you know he's not afraid of nothing. Anyway, here's the tent. This is a white duck outdoors canvas bell tent. It's their 13'6" canvas bell tent. It means it's 13'6" at its widest diameter. The reason I picked this tent out is I'm 58 now, and the idea of crawling in and out of a pup tent for weeks on end just didn't appeal to me. I'm not going to be, day camping. I'm here permanently for several weeks at a time, and potentially for longer than that. So I needed something that was more like a home than a temporary shelter. So hence the deck. The deck was built to be 14 foot something. It's slightly larger than the tent, which makes it easy to set it up. I have, as you can see in the corners here, in some corners we have little deck stays that were designed for boats. Those are integrated right into the deck, and I also included D-rings. And so setting it up is as simple as finding out where the door goes and then lining those things up with the D-rings properly, and then just tacking it down. The addition of the deck made a little bit of complication. So we got into these. I need to get some heavier versions of this, but it's essentially a spring-loaded clip that's aircraft grade aluminum. It slides through the deck and then you twist it. So you push down on the spring to compress it and then twist it sideways, and it locks it onto the deck. And it's worked out really well. The carabiners that came with these were not nearly tough enough and snapped. And you can see the amount of tension that you have to put in one of these canvas tents is a little too much for these. You can see how that's bent right over sideways. So I'm gonna do some research. I owe my brother a package of these because he bought these. So I need to get a package of them that are a little beefier, but still fit through the deck boards. So that's gonna be an interesting search. Anyway, on to the actual tent. Out front we have this little lantern. When dusk hits, I can just pull it down and I get light, which is great. And then, excuse me, inside we have the tent mahal. So I turned this into a hot tent. It was, when I purchased it, it came with this stove jack. So this is a piece of integrated silicone that's built right into the tent. You can see the weave of the canvas inside there. And then this will handle up to a 6-inch stovepipe. This is just a 2.6-inch stovepipe right now. I also have this fiberglass wrap going on the chimney as it goes up through, and we'll look at the rest of the chimney on the fireplace. This is a little stove tent that I got on Amazon. The tin foil is because I did not read the specs properly on this mat, which I thought was a heat resistant mat, but is actually just a spark resistant mat. And so I lit the fire and melted a hole through the bottom of my tent, which is going to be fine. I'm on a platform and I'm going to patch it with a tarp or something just to get it going. I wanted to buy the fully fireproofed tent. I honestly don't think that the bathtub floors in even the fireproof tent would resist the amount of heat that this put out, because it was putting out probably 400 degrees. That first length of stovepipe was glowing cherry red. And so I don't know that especially since it was sitting right on the floor, I really should have put a piece of Dura-Rock or something like that underneath it. So lesson learned. I scrambled, got some tin foil, which reflected the heat back up, and I was able to actually slide my hand underneath the tin foil while it was fully burning, and it was just slightly warm. So tin foil is amazing as far as its heat reflecting properties. Anyway, I digress. So right here I've got my little wood box. Try to do this without blocking the lens. These are my seeds. I've got eastern red cedar and blue spruce, and I'm going to plant these down along the road to aid in some of the noise abatement. I was going to do that this trip, but once again ran out of time. This is a mix of maple and some spruce to get it started, and a few sticks of fatwood to especially help get it started, and some birch bark. So I would just load this up every couple of days when I was burning the stove, and that would last me a good long time. But that little stove puts out an amazing amount of heat. Now the unfortunate thing is, it doesn't retain the heat because it's made out of probably stainless steel, but it's not super thick steel. And the door especially, or the accoutrements I should say, the door itself is fine. It's made out of the same material, but this little louver thing that you adjust the draft on the front of the door is such thin metal that I found when the heat gets really, really hot, that warps at a different rate than the rest of the stove. And so you can't damp the fire down, which leads to a runaway fire, which leads to you melting through the bottom of the floor of your tent. Anyway, back to the tent. It is 8'6" in the middle, so it's nice and tall. I can't even reach the peak. It's 2 bars to set up. So you literally stake the bottom out. Excuse the mess at the end of the bed there. That's the catch-all for everything. You stake the bottom out, you come in and you insert the center pole to get the center up, and then you insert the door pull, and then you tension the edges. And one of the other things I found, and I'll show you that in a bit, is adding stakes at each tension point to bring the level of the wall up. Gives you a nice straight wall. Otherwise you get some flexing in the wall. It looks like the stake may have come down back there. You see how it's wrinkled like that? Or may not have cut it quite long enough. But that sits underneath the tension point on the tent, and it gives you this nice straight wall, which makes it easy to do things like put a full-size bed in here. This is a metal frame, simple metal frame. And this breaks down to like 4 flat little pieces of metal that'll store up the hill in the shed. On top of that, I have a space blanket. Actually, on top of that, I have this cheap outdoor rug, and that was designed to keep the metal from puncturing the air mattress that I have. On top of the outdoor rug is a space blanket. That's to reflect my body heat back up and to block some of the cold that radiates up from the floor. It was 36 degrees a couple of nights here, and so it would not have been comfortable. That was one of the things about sleeping on the floor directly. Even with the space blanket, it was cold. So getting up off the floor even a few inches made a huge difference. The air mattress is covered with a wool blanket and then flannel sheets. And then on top of that, I don't even sleep under the sheets. All of this is just cold abatement to keep the cold from rising up through the floor. On top of that, I have these sleeping bags that thankfully my brother let me borrow. These are 2 Colemans. They're individual bags, but they're designed so that you can zip them together. And honestly, they make the perfect size sleeping bag for this bed. It fits it perfectly. It's called a short queen, I think, which is basically a large twin or full, whichever. I can never remember which is bigger, the twin or the full. But anyway, inside of that, I have a 30-degree bag. So there are some nights where it gets so cold that I would need to put my feet in the feet bag on the 30-degree bag, and then zip up inside the Coleman bag. So I'm inside 2 sleeping bags. Thankfully, the fire abated a little bit of that, but like I said, this fireplace is great for heating the space up. If there's any smoke in here and you have to leave the windows open, that goes away very quickly once the fire damps down. So getting a clean burn on here, because it doesn't seal tight, is not great, which means there's always a little bit of smoke. But anyway, this was super comfortable. The air mattress itself is a great air mattress. I'll try to put a link in the description. Once again, I got it on Amazon, but it's the same exact air mattress that my brother got on the climb, and it's super, super comfortable and thick. I have my cheapo dollar store pillows in my wonderful Adirondack print moose pillow covers that are also flannel. Everything I do here is multi-purpose. So I've got a little bucket table. This is just an offcut of cherry, again from the Poo Palace build. But it makes a nice tabletop for my bucket table. And then a little chair so I can comfortably sit up and read at night, or sit down to take my boots off, which is the most common use for that chair. And it also works as a clothing rack, as you can see, unfortunately. And then over here is just additional storage. I mean, there's a ton of room in here. The unfortunate thing is with these bell tents, because of the shape of the tent, there's a lot of unused space. So there's space at the end of the bed. I need to get probably a little chest to store stuff in for the end of the bed. There are integrated pockets on either side of the door. Those are mesh pockets, which is great if you need to store stuff that you need, like heading out the door. I put like batteries for my phone in there, keys for the car when I have a car here, so I know every time where they are. But then you get like these little side corners over here, where this is a square bed and that's a triangle. So you can lose stuff down in there. So I've got to figure that out, but this worked out really well. Yeah, I can see right now. You can see the post, which has fallen away from where it's supposed to be and is leaning against the side of the tent. So this is it. Walkies for the hill and a large battery, the hammock that I once again never got a chance to set up. But that's the entire tent mahal. Let's go on the tour again. These doors open up wide. You can either open them completely, as you can see, both the screens and the canvas doors will tie back. Commonly in the summer, I will just open the canvas wide up and then open up the 3 vent holes. There's one there, there's one back there, and then there's one over there that's hidden kind of in the corner. And then integrated in the top of the tent are these no-seam mesh vents as well. So if you open all of those, you get cross ventilation and vertical ventilation, which helps to vent all the hot air out the top of the tent. So this has been a fantastic tent for me, with the exception of me not knowing about the heat on the stove. I've not had a problem with it. It packs down relatively small. It is not something you're going to backpack in, obviously. It's a car camping type of tent, but if you're looking for a big tent, this is comfortably, if you don't have a giant bed and chair and table in here, this could sleep up to 6 people easily. So let's take a look at the outside of the fireplace, but that's it. A few rugs just to make it a little more homey and give you something to knock the dirt off of your feet, or cut the cold. I need to look into getting some wool rugs, just because the platform is so cold in the morning, especially when you get up and step on the floor. You're nice and warm and comfortable, and then you step onto that. So there's that. Let's go take a look at the outside of the hot stove. So here's the outside. I think I did a pretty good job of cutting around the stove vent, and there's another shot of the fiberglass insulation that wraps it looks like it's coming loose there, that wraps the pipe. Now that's designed to just give you added heat protection. And I went up above, and then I've got a spark arrestor cleverly taped to the top with a beer can as the rain lid, because the spark arrestor that I thought I bought with an integrated rain lid did not come. I just got the screen. But this works. It worked for me. It got me through some of the coldest nights. I've got some cleaning up to do, as you can see, to get the canvas cleaned up so that we can drop it down and get everything packed up. And I'm gonna get right to it. It was really, really nice to have the awning up this time. We had a little trouble because the awning poles are designed to be on the same level as the tent is. And so when we went to set them up, the awning came out too far to put them on the deck. And we needed to have it nice and level, so we had a nice place to sit and walk under. So we came up with these maple poles. There are plenty, as you can see, plenty of maples around here. Several of which I needed to pare back anyway, because they had some standing dead limbs and stuff like that. So we knocked off a couple of maple limbs, shaved them down, put some screws in the top, and they make wonderful stakes for the awning. And we were able to bring it up right level. So It worked out very well, but now it's time to say goodbye.